So, in the history of philosophy and theology, there have been two predominant positions that have been discussed, that have been held by theologians: creationism and traducianism. Now, historically, arguably, there have been more. There have been variants of those. There have been also what's called a third view that's actually not represented in the book and has definitely fallen on hard times. It's not very well represented. I wish we found a good contributor to represent that view, but it's called the pre-existence view of the soul. So these are really, when you go to a standard systematic theology, not as much anymore, but historically, then you would see these three views discussed: creationism, traducianism, and the pre-existence of the soul. Creationism is the most obvious kind of plain view, you might say, at one level. And it says that souls, you and I, are just created by God. We are created directly by God. And so when my soul comes into existence, it's not the kind of thing that's generated by a process, a natural process, or by even a kind of parental process. It's just created directly by God. Just kind of, you might even think of it, to give a mental picture, it's kind of the Zap view. Just
Right.
God.
At the moment of conception.
That's right. God gives it.
Ensoulment.
Right? That's right. That's right.
Okay.
The Traducian view is, at least at one level, still broadly creationist, in the sense that historically, most definitions, there's at least one or two people that were created directly in the kind of creationist story or creationist way. They're just kind of created directly, and those would probably be like Adam and Eve, or whoever the first parents were of the human race. Right? God created them, but he created them with a kind of propensity and a power to propagate different souls in and through familial history, human history. And so he creates them one or both directly, and but he gives them this sort of potential power to propagate additional souls that follow. And so souls are generated in some way, in and through a biological process, or in and through a kind of spiritual process by way of the parents. And so the souls are actually, in a real sense, a chip off the old block. When you call a son, you look at a father-son relation, you say he's chip off the old block. In a literal sense, all the way, he is a chip off the old block. So in that sense, they're still broadly creationist, and you might say at some like more fundamental level, both are affirming that everything, God is the efficient cause of everything. If you work with that kind of view of causation, God is the efficient cause of everything, but in some real direct sense, secondarily or instrumentally, human parents are the causes of the souls that are propagated or come into existence in human history. So that would be something like that would be the Traducian view, and you would say that souls are like the kinds of things that are prurient, almost like material or physical things. So when you read Tertullian, he sounds to me like a prurient. If he affirms the soul, which I think he still affirms the soul, I would argue, but he affirms something like a prurient souls, that souls are actually parts, that your mom and dad kind of give off parts in and through the sort of in the procreative process, they give off parts, and those parts come to comprise a new being, an individual being. Others would say something like souls are more like atoms that get split. So they can split off and you can get a new soul. Pop, 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 pop. Like, so,
Right.
so in the procreative process, this soul kind of just splits off as a distinct soul. The pre-existence view of the soul is different, and it's often motivated by a more Platonic view. Origen was a famous contender or a defender of some kind of pre-existence view that says something like souls souls existed before bodies. They existed maybe in some heavenly state, And
Mhm.
some would even say that souls existed in kind of an eternal kind of state, like out there in the Platonic heaven, like if you
Right,
believe
okay.
in Platonic
Almost
universe.
like a form, but an agentive version of a of a platonic form,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Still created though, right? I mean, people wouldn't be arguing that the souls were co-eternal or anything like that. But well, I don't
Yeah,
know, or maybe.
I think, yeah, I think that's right. They would be co-eternal. They would be something like dependent still upon agent or dependent upon the mind of God,
Right,
in the same way that maybe something like, the universal one or numbers are universally exist eternally. They've always existed, but they're still dependent upon the mind of God
right.
thinking them.